So today ended up being just kind of one long fluid session where started kind of early this morning and basically wrapped up here in the early evening with tons of break time in between. I didn't have much structure at all today, and more or less just kind of went in, wrote until I got stuck on a section, then took a break, came back throughout the day just periodically. I don't normally structure my days like that, but today just happened to work. And the reason for it is it was basically a screenwriting day. So today was just mostly dialogue. And it's like the one area of my writing that I tend to hate sometimes. For me, it's certainly, I don't think it's probably overall my weakest area is my dialogue. It's not terrible by any means, but a lot of it does not stand out. It's not snappy. It doesn't stand out. It's not something that's going to be like memorable. I don't think I've written any kind of lines in dialogue that'll ever be remembered. I've written some really good lines of just general like description, internal monologues, certainly, but like conversation dialogue, I don't recall any lines. Well, there's been a few, but for the most part, I tend to have dialogue is my weakest area. And unfortunately, when I'm working on this short story, it requires it. This story requires a lot of dialogue to pull it. It's a very kind of confrontational piece between two opposing ideologies, and that makes for the best drama. But it also requires some of the sharpest dialogue that you can basically pull out. Anytime you're doing drama, anytime you're doing conflict, it's about the dialogue, and the key to it is establishing what your characters want, like what their desire is, and then what their obstacle is, and lastly, establishing what they truly desire. So, want or desire, their obstacle, and then what they actually want. Right? I've done a whole entire video series, you can click on the playlist on my writing lessons, about creating characters and establishing motivations. But basically, once you can answer those three things, you're good. Your dialogue will work. All you have to do is just find someone who basically opposes those ideas, and the conversation will just go. As long as you're not writing, on the nose or anything like that, you should be able to find where the conflict is and go right ahead. The challenge is in discovering those three characteristics. Again, want, obstacle, and true desire. If I gave you the plot of like Harry Potter right now, I've used that in the writing lesson example too. Harry Potter, what does he want? Well, he basically, like if we're going off the first book here, he basically wants to just survive his first year of school and find the Philosopher's Stone. What's the obstacle? Well, someone in the school is trying to kill him, right? It's a bit of a mystery as to who it is, whatever, but someone is trying to kill him, someone's trying to get to it, right? More broadly, you could just say, his obstacle is Lord Voldemort, right? But now the question becomes, what does Harry really want? What does Harry actually desire? Well, what he really wants is a family, right? That's what he actually desires. And it's done very well in the Harry Potter book there, especially the first one, because there's actually a mirror that actually shows you what your deep desires. It's a very good sort of narrative trick that J.K. Rowling used. And so that's just a really good example of those three qualities there. And for me, this was what the whole day was. It was trying to come up with this. I went into this project, much like most of my projects, with kind of an idea and a concept in my head. For short stories, I don't necessarily do a lot of outlining for them. They're not like novels for me, where I outline everything to the T, or at least a good portion of it. With short stories, I just jump in and do whatever. I come up with an initial idea, premise, come up with a character. I come up with basically like an idea. Okay, this character wants, like, this is what it's about, and this character basically wants this thing here, and Yeah, and then as I kind of write it, I begin to sort of get to know the character. The writing of the story, especially the first draft of my short stories, is like an interview process. I get to know him. I get to figure out what that deeper desire really is, and then I get to bring it out in subsequent drafts. In this one, because it is such a confrontational piece, because it's basically about just two opposing ideologies, two opposing characters that are trying to have some sort of like symbiotic working relationship. I have to know that. I have to discover what that is. And nothing will work until I know it. And so today the dialogue was about figuring that out. It was like, okay, do some lines of dialogue here between them, just write out some conversations between them, and all I did all day basically was that, just writing out conversations on a separate blank document. I wasn't even using quotes. I was just going back and forth, just paragraph, just new paragraphs for each person speaking. And then in between that, I was taking out like basically a notepad and just writing down basically just sketches of like, okay, what do they want? What do they actually want though? Okay, and what are their desire? Like, what's their main obstacle, right? And the main obstacle is each other. Both characters, their obstacles are more or less one another. And so that's all this was. All day, just again for the back, basically a screenwriting session is what it was. But made some good progress. I actually have begun to know my characters a little bit better. I imagine over the next few days that'll become much more clear, and that I'm hoping, if things kind of work out the way I hope, maybe by midweek, maybe by maybe Wednesday or so, when I have my my day off, right, my Wednesdays off here, maybe then I can take the full day and actually write out pages and pages and pages of this whole story. Maybe but until then, it's going to be a little bit of seemingly no progress at all. It's going to look like there's no progress. And writing a short story is all about the art. It's all an art. You cannot force it. You cannot say I'm going to get, at least for me, I can never say I'm going to get 2 pages written today, because I don't know how developed I am with this piece. I don't know where my characters are at. I don't know how much I know yet when I jump in. I don't have certain things established, right? For me, it's an unfolding process. Often why I talk about using time at the keyboard as a measurement of success, not so much pages or word count per day. And over the next few days, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be just a very sort of, I imagine, slower process of me just sitting at the computer and doing a bit more dialogue, getting to know a little bit more about these characters. And then once I know it, I can write the whole thing. Once I know these characters, once I know their motivations, their goals, and their deepest of desires, we can go right through this whole thing. Because you have it. You have the plot and you have the subtext, right? The plot is the goal and the obstacle. The subtext is their deepest desires. That's what you can write through. Know that, and you will know everything you need to get a story finished.